I just want you to know that. He is putting in all of the same draconian garbage. He is more dangerous and more wicked and more evil than Bill Clinton could ever try to be. And to all of the conservatives out there, did you think I would just bash Clinton for all these years here on the air because of his criminal activity? And then if Bush engaged in criminal activity that we wouldn't go after him? You are seeing a coup d'etat of our government. You are seeing an overthrow. The government is behind the terrorism. They funded them. They trained them. They equipped them. They protected them in this country. The government is behind the anthrax attacks. They're preparing to blame that on the American people. They have abolished much of the Bill of Rights and Constitution. They are bringing troops in. They have announced they're going to bring in United Nations troops to be on our streets as part of Continental Security Zone. Bush is rampaging ahead to disarm the American people. Had a speech today to the National Bar Association where he said he's going to do this. The Supreme Court ruled that we have no right to own guns. Bush is celebrating this ruling from Monday. The Chucky Schumers of the world and the Hillary Clintons are worshiping Bush right now. It is a total and complete betrayal, a total and complete takeover. George Bush is attempting to make himself dictator. Even William Safire of the New York Times last week said this. The name of the article was Seizing Dictatorial Power. In the article, he says George Bush is the first true dictator of this country. And that is why they allowed the terrorist attacks of September 11th. That's why they trained the terrorists, funded them, aided them, protected them. And look, I've gone through all the news articles and documents mainstream for you on past shows since this happened. Even more has come out now. I've gone over the legislation for you that abolished the Bill of Rights and Constitution and how they're actually doing that now. We got the thing where they say they're ready to shoot old women in the Detroit Free Press. The federal government saying the troops have been trained to kill old women in order to do so. Ron Paul and others have said they weren't even allowed to read the bills that were passed. They're shipping thousands of slaves out of North Korea into Russia publicly, and Vladimir Putin's having press conferences with them, and we're calling him great in our news as they're now publicly trafficking in slaves. The FBI's put out these flyers, and you might want to turn that iris down a little bit. There we go. The FBI has publicly said that anyone mentioning the Constitution or Bill of Rights is a terrorist. It actually says that in here. And all of this is on Infowars.com. We're not making any of this up. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. What they've gotten out of the attack, how the government had the motive, how they did it, how they funded it, how they engineered it. It's now in the BBC, the Sunday Times of London, Le Figaro, the big newspaper, and worldwide French radio. It's all bin Laden in CIA hospitals in July. The Washington Times. It's all confirmed. I mean, look at this story. Again, I don't know where to start, folks. This story out of the Associated Press: Hollywood to give boost to government image in movies. And then you read this thing. This is from October 19th, and it actually says that the White House Chief of Staff has met a whole bunch of times with the heads of Hollywood and television, and that they're going to not make anything look bad. That they're going to tell screenwriters and people that write the scripts that nothing's allowed that criticizes any government agent of any type. I mean, folks, this is Nazi Germany. I've got stacks of news here about how the government had prior knowledge, all the things they did. Here's MSNBC, how they trained 3 of the hijackers at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. I mean, I don't know where to begin with all this stuff. Mike, if I could have a close shot, not that it even matters, do you people even check this stuff out? And then later articles admit they did indeed train at those bases. We've got the analysis here where they admit we're under martial law. What does the government do? They leave the borders wide open, start accepting Russian and Mexican IDs at banks, and police are supposed to, and the borders are being left wide open. They're not allowed to search foreigners flying in, but they're proposing national ID cards, putting face scanning cameras up everywhere, building more prisons. And repeat, Bush has announced, I have the Associated Press articles, all of it. I have the guy on videotape. It's going to be in the new film we're producing right now. Bush has come out and actually said that they're going to bring United Nations troops into the country for the continental security bubble and to, quote, deal with American terrorists. They began this by bringing in NATO aircraft. For the first time since the French aided us in the Civil War against the British, we have foreign troops here. And now they got used to hearing about foreign troops there. Now they're announcing masses of United Nations troops. And guess who's coming into NATO? The Russians. And I know you've heard that they're all reformed now and that they're our big buddies, but I have the Times of Moscow, the Moscow Times. I have BBC, all of it. This guy has press conferences thanking Kim Jong-il, the hereditary North Korean communist dictator, communist for the people. They give power to their children to be dictator. Thanking him for shipping 30,000 slaves into Siberia to work in the slave camps, mining and cutting down timber to pay off a debt. Whereas 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Russia, when it was the Soviet Union, wouldn't admit they had gulags full of people. Now Putin just has press conferences about it, and the media says, what's the big deal? China sells political dissidents organs, kills living babies, infanticide. And then Pat Robertson comes out and says China's doing what it has to do. And then a phony liberal like Dr. Peter Singer at Yale comes out and calls babies mackerels, comparing them to a mindless fish, calls retarded children subhuman at the governor's conference. This was in the news, and they clap for this bastard. Folks, unmitigated evil, a time of darkness has been pouring out. But you're watching the news and learning how to bake a cake or roast a turkey, and you're worried about, shining your new truck, and you're out here worried about your WWF wrestling or what the Horns are doing, what the UT football team's doing, while the country is sliding into hell on earth. FEMA camps, concentration camps, we've shown them all to you. It's all happening. And I don't know how to even articulate the pain, the sorrow, the horror that I'm going through. I have actually become physically ill over this. I have wrestled with evacuation from this country. I am actually wrestling with the same decision that some of the Jews had to make, the smart ones who left Germany. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if I could just even articulate the bizarreness we're witnessing. We've got everybody from the chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, to Alan Dershowitz, the big ACLU lawyer, saying torture is needed of American citizens, not just all of the Taliban, which works for the government. And I've got the reports right here. I'm sure you've heard about it on the news, like it's a good idea. The Russians, the Nazis, didn't brag about torture on the nightly news. They hid it behind closed doors. And I'm not trying to scare you either for the government. The best thing we could do is be honest about all this happening. I got articles where they say the military is ready to kill old women if ordered to do so, if anyone resists forced relocation and the population being put into sports arenas. And then it's the government behind the biological attacks. It's the government handing this stuff out. We actually have Reuters today admitting that it's the rage in Europe with all the documents that the U.S. government's behind the anthrax attacks. Jesus. But does it matter in Europe? They're abolishing juries, arresting people, face scanning cameras, satellite tracking switches going in all the cars, prison building everywhere, arrest. It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. You always wonder how that stuff could happen in Nazi Germany or Russia. This is how it happens. A docile public watches it happen, doesn't have enough respect in themselves, aren't organized, don't know how to speak out against it, don't have respect for themselves to speak out against it, and think, oh, it'll never happen to me if I just keep my mouth shut, and then it happens to everybody. I also want to tell you out there, my friends, that Advanced Digital Solutions that gets funding from the Defense Department and the CIA 3 days ago, November 26th, rolled out the Digital Angel in South Florida. They've already conducted beta testing in trial runs, and I had the director of Advanced Digital Solutions on about 8 months ago. He is the inventor of the subdermal body-powered tracking microchip. And I have the Bloomberg financial story in the biometric and police state sections of Infowars.com, as well as Fox News and the rest of it. They are rolling out 3 days ago with TV, radio, and print advertisements, microchips for children, the elderly, and criminals. And the state is preparing to inject the criminal population with microchips. I mean, the level of the news that is now coming out sends chills up and down my spine. And then you go to the Army's website and the Federation of American Scientists website that I have links to on Infowars.com. It's not on my website. I have links to them where they say that thanks to the media and the persuasiveness of public relations, that means propaganda, they predict, and the same Army War College and others have been right in the past, that we will have a microchipped population fully for tracking and control within 25 years. And the microchip, the main company, Advanced Digital Solutions, has rolled them out, FDA approved. Go to Infowars.com. It's such a giant site. Type in Digital Angel Microchip into the search engine. Hundreds of links will pop up. You can link through to the company's website. You can link through to Fox News and AP and Bloomberg Financial News, as I was talking about this the last few years and bringing you these pieces of evidence. And now they knew the time to launch it was after the terrorism. We told you on this show on July 25th, we put the White House phone number up, the number to Congress. We said the government is about to blow up buildings, about to attack Lower Manhattan. We have this from our defense intelligence sources. They're about to do this to usher in this world government. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is actually happening. It is actually happening. This societally is the equivalent of body snatchers taking over the planet, except it's our own species and our own kind, a criminal global cabal out in the open announcing world government in your face and announcing satellite tracking systems to go in the cars in this country, putting up the face scanning cameras. The whole system, the whole juggernaut, the whole federal police force that we warned you about that was forming for so long to take control of local departments is happening. They have also announced, I have a Washington Post article right here, Homeland Defense wants to have 356,000 troops on the streets, not just in airports, not just at dams, but now on street corners for drug violations, for gun violations, mixing guns with drugs, which the government ships in, the drugs. That's been proven, public knowledge now. Bush reaffirmed this today. We showed you the military checkpoints years ago, occasionally with the police, getting the military officers trained to raid homes, creating the cadres to go back and train the military. We showed you all of this. We showed you this system unfolding. And now you're going to see it in the next few years, more and more. And you're going to drive by, you're going to see the police with the military, and you're like, well, they were at the airport, I guess they're here. And you're going to see them raid your neighbor's house for guns that are legal. All across the country, they're raiding people's houses for 22 rifles, shotguns, from Kentucky to Arizona. We're not talking about New York where they're all banned. This is scary, folks. They're raiding doctors' homes who have 10 guns that are legal. They're raiding rich people's homes. They're raiding poor people's homes. The BATF's going wild with local police. They're gunning families down. They're shooting radio talk show hosts on their doorsteps from Florida to Arizona. It's all happening, ladies and gentlemen. It's all happening. Don't you understand? We're trying to break through to you here while we still can to let you know that incrementally a dictatorship has been formed, and now they're implementing it. And the FBI doesn't care. They get their paycheck. They'll do whatever they're told. Now, we kind of have a piece that's kind of an escape from this really horrible news coming up in about 7 minutes. That's about 7 minutes long, I'm told. And it's about how they're tearing out history and destroying history here in Austin, Texas. With the home that was downtown, the oldest home left in Austin, the sole survivor of the Alamo. They tore it out quietly at night to build that big city-owned monstrosity down there. And, of course, it's the phony environmentalists running the whole scam. They're really the biggest developers around. They're about stealing your property, destroying Austin and Texas history. And we'll show you what this out-of-control city council's done. Might put together a great piece. And then we're going to come back. And I want you to call all your friends and family and tell them to tune into this show, because I'm going to blow by blow go through the FBI putting out flyers to police departments across the country where they say, if you encounter any of the following, call the Joint Terrorism Task Force, defenders of the U.S. Constitution, people that make numerous references to U.S. Constitution. Now, this is what police have sworn an oath to protect. And now you wonder what America with a K, what Red Dawn would be like. This is it. But they're not landing, from parachutes falling out of the skies. It's our own government, and they're doing it. Also from the Detroit Free Press, vast quarantine role advocated for states. The event of bioterrorist attack, which the government will engage in, using a deadly and contagious disease such as smallpox, held the public officials want to be able to close roads, airports, herd people into stadiums that have necessary quarantine entire infected cities. Then you read at the end, the head of the federal operation, Mr. Gostin, who I interviewed on the radio, said you have to use all reasonable force, including shooting a grandmother trying to evade quarantine. And notice how before they did all this, they introduced biological attack in all the movies and all the TV shows and the culture, and it's coming, it's going to get you, give up your rights. The evil right-wingers are going to release it. The government, the nice men in black uniforms and ski masks are going to have to stop them when they do. They had biological weapons 50 years ago that would kill everybody. Why just in the last few years did they start hyping all this? But we actually have the evidence that it is the government. Reuters, U.S. government expert believed to be behind attacks from the U.S. government. This was from the U.S. delegation at the United Nations, believed it is an inside job. The members also have more information that has not been released to the public yet. I interviewed the head of the Sunshine Project from Berlin, Germany, today on the radio. This is Reuters. This is the Toronto Star, the most highly respected paper in Canada. Bin Laden have help from the U.S. friends. And then it says everything I've said, that the government funded, protected, trained the terrorist, and that bin Laden is a known CIA asset, and that Bush protected bin Laden and is protecting him now. This is all staged, ladies and gentlemen. The foolish Islamics think he's a big hero and they're fighting for him. But he's there as a double agent to bring them down. I mean, I've got it all right here, folks, from the Washington Times to the BBC. They're announcing, ladies and gentlemen, they're admitting they have the FEMA camps. And you read the definition of a terrorist in H.R. 3162 that we'll read later, the USA Patriot Act. You read the definition of a terrorist, and it is in Section 802, Paragraph A, any activity that endangers human life, that is a violation of federal or state law. That is jaywalking. That is a fist fight. And under it, they can extradite you secretly to a United Nations tribunal. You've all heard it on the news, the secret tribunals where they can execute you and all this. It's American citizens, folks. They can extradite you to a military or UN tribunal, try you in secret, and execute you in secret. This is the actual bill on Infowars.com. Now, if you can pull yourselves away from the football games, men, weak men who aren't real men, who aren't in a real arena for their children and family, but feel all tough about the game, and women, if you can pull your head out of the women's magazines telling you how you're not worth anything and how you're inadequate and how you're fat, if you can't pull your head out of that, then this is what you're going to get. This is what you're going to get, ladies and gentlemen. And for the lawyers and doctors and UT professors and Lino Graglia, I heard Lino Graglia talking like a Nazi on KLBJ last week. I'm just overloaded. I'm at the point of overload. I mean, I've got it all here. I've got the government's plan to blow up buildings and sink ships, their own document. I'm going to go through that if we have time. I hear Lino Graglia on Jeff Ward's show. And I hear this guy on there. He said, we don't need the Fourth and Fifth Amendment. These military tribunals are good. Secret execution's good. We don't need these privileges, these silly privileges anymore. We need to stop the terrorists. We need to get rid of juries. They've gotten rid of juries in Europe. Well, damn right they have. They're in the EU, the New World Order, folks. And I hear Jeff Ward going, yeah, that's great, that's great. Folks, it's all disappearing. The people are running up their Nazi flags right now. You know, I love America. I love what that flag symbolizes. That's why I fought for America and our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. That's why America's been worth fighting for. Our veterans didn't fight and die to live in a police state with no Fourth Amendment, with secret tribunals, with a disarmed population, with a 6.5 million prison population that's gone up from 1.3 million 2 years ago. And the problem with this paradigm, this reality, is that Democrats are all calling me up going, God, Alex, you're right. We thought you were bad when you were bashing Clinton. God, you're right. Bush is Hitler. And some of my old conservative friends who would always say, I don't get the liberals. Why don't they wake up that Clinton's a murderer, a criminal, anti-American, selling out our rights, a rapist? Why can't they look at the facts? I'd say because they associate their power with Bill Clinton. They feel like they're part of the establishment. They go, oh, yeah, you're right. Those same people walk up to me in the hallways at Access and say, I can't believe you showed Bohemian Grove on Bush. Skull and Bones is all right. Bush is doing what he needs to with faith-based initiative, taking over the churches. And I'm like, it's a violation of the First Amendment. And they go, well, the liberals have taken control of government and violated the Constitution for a long time. It's our time now. So the liberals are over here only seeing part of the story, and the conservatives are when both parties at the top are ramming this through, when they're all the same people, part of the same clubs with the same agenda. And they double team us with both parties. Folks, we're in so much trouble. They're putting in electronic voting machines linked to massive election fraud right now in Travis County. Dana DeDubois, the county clerk, has been caught double counting ballot boxes, stuffing ballot boxes, changing safety seals, and falsifying signatures in the 98 election, where we exposed it 45 days before it was in the Statesman that she was involved in election fraud in the Prop 2 election in place 2 with Karen Sunleitner. They get those electronic voting machines in, which they're starting to test right now in some areas. It's over, folks. I'm just throwing it all at you. It is a Mayday emergency from local to state to national. It's all unfolding. You're going to live in a third world police state hell. They're getting ready for a massive engineered depression, just like 1929. And when this happens, all hell is going to break loose. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I am peaceful. I will defend my family, though, but they are probably going to kill people like me. You have a right to know, and I'm not trying to intimidate them for you. I'm not trying to intimidate you for them. I'm just being honest about how serious things have gotten. I just want you to know that America is falling right now. It's being destroyed. It's being annihilated. And all you're concerned with is petty, mindless issues of little or no significance. Those of you that are involved in politics are in the phony left-right paradigm, don't know about the real paradigm of command and control, slavery, whatever brand name it has on one end, and freedom on the other. Where are you on that system? Most of you, but though most people aren't involved in politics and are just passive and just watch the sports, and the apathy is raging. And they scientifically did it, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to know, though, that a lot of good FBI agents and Defense Intelligence have given us a lot of this information. That's how we knew the terror attacks were coming, that the government engineered. They have blown the whistle in Europe, releasing classified documents that Bush engineered the attacks, BBC articles on my website. There are good people in government that care. But the reason I can fight and stand up is because I'm not being asked to charge some machine gun nested on some sandy beach to be cut down like cordwood. I'm just here in America speaking the truth, showing you the documents, hoping you'll have the courage of your forefathers and mothers to fight total dehumanization. Because this tyranny, when it goes into full place, is total. It's licensed births, licensed marriages, it's control. Everyone's going to be put into compact cities, and then they're going to have an extermination of 80% of the world's population with controlled plagues. And that comes next. They put this crap down on paper, folks. The UN has stated this. So listen, I love you out there. I really do. And I've made a lot of sacrifices to bring you this information. So is my family and Violet Nichols that works with me and Mike Hansen. And we and the millions of listeners I have on my syndicated radio show on 100 stations. I come here once a week, though, because I've been censored off the air in Austin, and the place I live deserves to know the truth. It's not my view. It's not my opinion. I have it in absolute triplicate from the best news sources worldwide. They have, folks, this is the grand plan. The elite doesn't want you to have the life extension technologies. They want to exterminate and control the rest so they can literally be the equivalent of gods with the new technologies and literally fly above their agrarian slave populations. They actually have stated this. If you don't believe me, just go to my website, link through to the government's own websites where they say this, to the UN website where they say this. These people are megalomaniacal maniacs. But look at every dictator and every oligarchy throughout history. They always do this. And now they actually have the technology to deliver it to themselves. My friends, this is total. This is total dehumanization, total takeover. They're planning on exterminating most of us in the next phases. Escalating terrorism, getting the noose around our neck, condensing control, and then at that point, once they've all got us in compact cities, using the phony environmentalists to force everybody off the rural lands, which is happening everywhere, using the terrorism to focus us into a national ID card, cashless society, police state that they're now announcing. Once they've got us in those cities, it's over. Mass plagues, engineered, forget smallpox and anthrax, are going to be released. Race-specific weapons have already been released in Africa and Latin America. This is a Anglo-American, as Carol Quigley wrote at Georgetown, power establishment hell-bent on mass extermination of all of the different races other than the Chinese sub-derivation of the Asian group and some whites. And this is the group of the illuminated that are going to be able to go forward into the future. I want to stop that for everybody. We all have a right to live and to have free expression in our own thoughts. But their propaganda has destroyed us. We are in the 21st century. We are in the zone. I hope this isn't too heavy for you. For many years I told you it was a lot of stuff I couldn't talk about because it was too much. It is now unfolding. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. We're going to air this piece about Texas history. They are with the Dickinson House. and how they're destroying history. And then we'll come back with all this and just bombshell news. And I just want you to know they are planning on moving the O'Henry house and maybe cramming the damaged house over there, which is a horrible idea. And then we're going to air the face scanning camera piece about the face scanning cameras that have gone up all over Austin, and how they've lied to you, how they've told you that it's a traffic camera. And then we'll go into how the government's taking over Hollywood, Associated Press, actually taking over the script writing. Then we'll get to how the government funded and worked with the Al-Qaeda and the terrorists to attack us. Then we'll get to how Congress wasn't allowed to read the bills they've passed, what the bills are, how the government's behind the anthrax attack, and then the declassified document where the government planned all this, which was released before the attack. In fact, give me a close shot. I want to show them this, please. That's the declassified document right there. That's on Infowars.com. Maybe you think it's a fake document. Well, just go read the Baltimore Sun story then. Or maybe you want to read the ABC News story about it. You say, well, the media's control. Why are they doing all this? They don't control every reporter. They'll write one story occasionally. An editor will miss it. It'll come out. And some people in government are concerned. That's why someone in the National Security Agency leaked this to James Bamford to get the news out. We do have hope. Understand that. And as things get worse, more people will resist. But now we have more tools than we'll ever have to fight them in information war and physically. So now you have to speak up. Now you have to have courage. Now you have to be bold, or we're going to lose this country. All right, here's the piece about how the city tore out the Austin landmark, oldest house in Austin, and how they really want to destroy it. And then we'll give you the face scanning camera piece, and then I'm going to have to hit this news. But trust me, go spend hours tonight on Infowars.com and read all these stories and look at it all total together. And go to the Army's website and the Federation of American Scientists, where they're talking about how they want to put microchips in the children. And then read the Fox News and Bloomberg Financial, where they're already selling microchips for children in South Florida. And then read the UN documents on my website, link through to the UN, where they say they want to get rid of 80% of us because of advances in technology. The elite will be able to live several hundred years, but we can't have access to it. You have to read this to understand it. It takes a lot of study, but I don't want you to believe a word I'm saying. I know this sounds like science fiction. It's here. It's happening. Now, you've been watching a long time. You know we predicted all the stuff that's happening now. We're not playing games out there. All right, here is the first piece. Then we'll have the second piece. Then I'll be back with this news. This is an emergency for mankind. Please take action. Do small things every day for freedom. Break your conditioning. Many hands make light work. We'll be right back.